Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Corporate Chess League. As always, my name is Caleb Denby, and I'm going to be your host here tonight. We are nearing the end of our spring season for the Corporate Chess League, actually. And so it's actually coming down to the wire here. These teams, of course, are competing to see who is going to advance to the playoffs, and ultimately, who will get their name inscribed on the coveted Corporate Chess League board. You saw Alex there introducing everything. He, of course, is the league commissioner and also a mainstay of the Edward Jones Corporate Chess League team. And now we've got quite a few other teams to take a look at here tonight. So why don't we see where they all stand as we are in the back half of our Grand Prix season. Up there, you see Enterprise is the team leading the way, actually ahead of league, eternal league favorite Edward Jones. Edward Jones, though, does come in a solid second place. I would say, though, the story of the league so far has been this Ascension team. Enterprise and Edward Jones have been pretty much totally dominant in years past, but I think Ascension in this season has taken match points off of both Enterprise and Edward Jones. So they are a team to look out for in the finals. And then, for playoff contention, the battle is going to be going on between Darty and Bayer. They are neck and neck, and only the top four will advance to the playoffs. So they have a lot to play for here in these last few Grand Prix matches. Tonight, we've got some exciting matchups. We have actually, in round one, Enterprise squaring off against Edward Jones. So we'll see the top two boards battling it out there. And then we have Ascension also squaring off against Bayer. And if I'm not mistaken, I think we have no Darty here tonight. So this will be Bayer's chance to make up some points, see if they can replace Darty in that top four and make their way into the playoffs. If you're wondering how this actually all comes together, the players will all be playing 2 games per round on chess.com. The games are 10 plus 0. No increment, no delay. You just get 10 minutes for the entire game. After they finish their first game, they flip colors and play again, and that is what constitutes the match. How do those Grand Prix points work that you saw? Well, if you win your match, if your team beats the other team, then you get 20 extra Grand Prix points. On top of that, you get your team's total score in the match. So if my team plays your team, my team scores 3 points, your team scores 1, I get 3 plus 20 for a total of 23. Your team walks away with a measly 1 point. All right, without further ado, though, I do think games are underway, and I do mean games plural. That's right, we have more than just Make a Cake to follow here tonight. Why don't we take a look at what's going on? It looks like we have board one of Enterprise versus Edward Jones already underway. That's right, we've got the eternal kamikaze knight, leader of the Enterprise team, John Boyer, up against Justini Linguini, who is a force to be reckoned with. Now, Justini has had some big shoes to fill here with Vishal Bhardwaj, the former Edward Jones board one, leaving the team. In fact, leaving the whole entire company. I think he got a new job. So Justini trying to fill those shoes on board one. It's been sort of tough so far. Board one is very competitive in this league. But he's going to do his best here to stop John Boyer in his tracks. By the way, hello everybody in the chat. I do see you there. Thanks for joining here tonight. See James Cluse, Cheese Tiger, Christian, James Cluse. No, I already said James Cluse. I got confused. I thought there were 2 Cluses. And Christian again. How's it going? All right, let's take a look. Let's see how we got here. It looks like we had a Pierce of some kind. So how did we get here? So d4, knight f6, knight c3, g6. Very weird move order, but we do end up in a mainline Pierce. Sort of mainline. I don't know this opening that well. And black is playing knight back to e8 and bishop g4. And wow, bishop d5. This looks very, very strange by John. I don't understand what this move is. I guess John was worried about some sort of pressure on f3 when the queen is pressuring d4. But bishop d5 is very much an odd way to try and solve that problem. I think c6 is a desirable move for black. Don't see any reason not to go for something like that. I guess in the long run, black is going to be trying to play c5, which is maybe why Justini chose queen to c8 instead. Now h3 kicks this bishop away. Maybe bishop back to f5. And maybe I'm out of my depth here. Maybe this is This is, you know, all according to plan, but I have my doubts about this bishop d5 move. It may look like black is getting rolled over in the center. You know, white has these two strong central pawns, but black is actually, you know, the one with a little bit, a very safe king here so far. In the long run, black might look to play something like f6 to challenge this e5 pawn, or of course the more normal plan c5, taking out this d4 pawn. e6 now comes with tempo, but I don't love this move at all by Giustini. I feel like this is not what you want to be doing here. You actually stunt your own light squared pieces, and you make this f6 move much harder to achieve. You always wanted to do f6, ef6, and now that option's not going to be available for you. This was the Austrian attack? Yeah, I think you're right. Did I call it the classical? I think I said it was just the main line. And again, maybe I'm out of my depth here, and both players know this better than I do, but e6 looks kind of ugly. I don't know. I don't know about that one. Okay, bishop c6 and castles. After making the light squared bishop bad, I guess it makes sense that black needs to trade it. And yeah, now John, I think, is playing a little bit more normally. I don't know what this whole maneuver is all about, to be honest with you. Maybe it's something, maybe it's not. Okay, queen back out to d7 now. I mean, I'm not really sure how much this move achieves. Black is just going to have a very tough time getting all the pieces developed here. Like, where is this knight going to go? How are you actually getting c5? And if you're not getting c5, then you're probably just very, very sad in this position. White has a pretty clean plan here. You can just slowly but surely maybe double up on this f-file here, play a move like knight g5, play a move like, you know, eventually maybe we will take and start bringing in this other knight. And it's sort of a ready-made attack, pressure down the f-file, and the black king is going to start feeling the pressure. He will not attack with pawns whites. So white already has this huge spatial advantage, and black has all these dark squared weaknesses. So I think here, rather than maybe something like h4, h5, which actually also looks very good, white can already just start trying to play with the pieces. Just play a move like knight g5 here, go after these weaknesses, and play some chess. But h4, h5 also looks very good. Also looks very good. Yeah, hello to Sam's. How's it going? Hello, hello. Okay, so knight a6 is how Giustini wants to get developed, but it's just very uncoordinated, in my opinion. You know, these four pieces, they don't seem to have much to do with each other, if that makes sense. Right? This knight is stuck on the back rank. This bishop's looking at the center. This bishop at least is trying to trade itself off. But this knight also sort of out in no man's land. You know, none of these pieces make sense together. Whereas with white, you can really see the through line, so to speak. You see this knight coming to e4. You see this knight coming to g5. You see these bishops and this bishop and queen pressuring the king side. Everything is starting to flow together. And hello to Dima on YouTube. Thank you for joining. a3 is a good move. Knight b4, I guess, was actually kind of annoying, so it makes sense to stop it. And now we do see this trade, and yeah, black absolutely needs to get c5 in, or else there's just nothing. There's just no active counterplay at all. Need to get c5 in. How do you do it? Maybe rook c8, but I don't know, it seems tough. You would like to play b6, but of course that leaves the knight behind. Whoops, that leaves the knight behind here, so you can't do that. If you play c5, white will actually just capture that pawn, I think. So it's really unclear how we're getting c5 through. Is that a special coffee? It's just a coffee. Just a coffee to get me some energy for this Corporate Chess League tonight. Losing against the e5 pawn is black lately. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of openings where white gets a big space advantage in the center, but what's important is that whenever you play those openings, you need to have a very clear plan for how you're going to challenge this center. It's a good question, Whipster. So we were actually looking at the game earlier when black chose to play this e6 move, and I was really criticizing this one because f6, of course, is a very desirable idea. In fact, I might even play like king h8 here to try and achieve it. Maybe c6 is a little bit easier. But yeah, I very much wanted to play f6, and after e6, it just becomes very, very difficult to ever make work, because you don't want to leave this pawn behind. So I think that's really one of the critical mistakes this game. But as we see now, black, in fact, is playing f6 anyways. But of course, without the pawn to be able to recapture, you're leaving behind, number one, the e5 square, number two, these weaknesses, and that's maybe the only two things that I have to say, but those are two pretty major things. Leaving behind all these weaknesses, not going to be pleasant. Now, if I'm playing with white here, I'm probably going to go for c3, just to solidify this pawn, allow myself to play knight e5 to follow up, and put black in a bad way. Of course, knight e5 immediately does drop this pawn, so that's why I wanted to play c3. But maybe black is onto something here, because if I do go c3, maybe c5 is finally back on the cards. So black did manage to give white some problems to solve here, which is admirable considering how tight the grip looked on the position. So it looks like f6 anyways was maybe not so bad. So how do we solve these problems with white? If we go c3, c5, knight e5, what exactly is going on there? It looks like I'm attacking the knight and the queen, so maybe this is actually very good. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Yeah, it's also good immediately. We don't need this c3 move. Now if takes on d4, we simply trade the queens, take on f6, and win a piece. So black is, in fact, just in a very bad spot here. You can go queen e7 to momentarily defend everything, but I think the simple move knight g4 is going to be enough. When, again, you can really see the harmony in white's position when literally every minor piece plus a rook is attacking the same square. You know, the pieces all work together, and that's going to give you a winning advantage here. Yeah, just knight g4. John finds it. John finds it, proving why he's the highest rated player in the Corporate Chess League. And if I can maybe refresh here, we might have some more games. Oh no, say it isn't so. Okay. I at least have 2 games to follow, but I'm not pulling up some of these other games. Let's try unfollowing everybody. And we'll follow Kamikaze Knight. We're already observing him. And let's see if we can observe board 2. How is Kendulum doing? Oh boy. Oh boy. No Kendulum? All right. Well, we've got at least board 1. And Nick Risco, our tournament director here tonight, also having issues spectating other games. So looks like our problems with chess.coms might not be fully solved. But hey, we've got board 1 of the marquee matchup here. What more can you ask for? We also have a second game, by the way, so we can take a look at this as well. Just sticking with this momentarily, though, it looks like after queen f7, black is going to be losing a piece. So I think John is going to be able to wrap that one up. Why don't we take another look at this game then between KYQZ and MC Nick JM. By the way, I had a moment here today on the Bayer team. There are 2 people on the Bayer team, 2 different people. One is named MC Nick JM, who we're watching right now. The other is named NMC Jin. And I'm pretty sure in my brain, up until this very moment, I thought that those were the same person. Anyways, looks like MC Nick JM found a little idea. Look at that. That's going to be checkmate. You have to play rook f2. Otherwise, queen to h2 is checkmate. You cannot capture this bishop. That's a nice little find. Nice tactic by MC. So rook f2 is played, but now queen to h2 is still playable. It's not checkmate anymore, but you do pick up at least an exchange. Very nice find. Very, very nice find. Bishop e3. Upset and a half? Well, it's not over yet. It's not over yet. It is just an exchange. So yeah, bishop f2 first also is good enough to win the exchange. Ooh, king takes is bold. I would have gone queen takes to try and guard some of these dark squares. King takes just invites the wolf to the henhouse, as Yasser would say. Yeah, either the queen or the rook both look pretty reasonable here. Maybe what KYQZ is hoping for is that black will get a little ambitious, forget about his own king, and start and allow this white queen to come in and maybe deliver some checks, maybe pick up the e6 pawn, something like that. No such luck. MC keeps it together, makes another threat of rook to f8, and keeps his ideas alive over on this side of the board as well. King e2 makes sense. If I'm black, I'm probably going to play rook f8 anyways, yeah? Get this queen off this nice open file where it works well with the bishop. And once this queen leaves, maybe to h3 or something, I think I want to play e5. And after e5, I just want to rip open the center, get to this white king, and cause some more problems for my opponent. All right, don't want to jump around too much, but we will check in on our other game here. Looks like John Boyer did end up winning that first match. Of course, he was just winning that piece on f6. So let's see how they do in their second game of the match. We have a little a6 idea by John Boyer. Giustini decides to go for the exchange, and with this weird bishop g5 move, this is not at all standard by Giustini. Normally, they put this bishop on f4. Let's see what he has in mind. Let's see what he has in mind here. Okay, knight e4, just e3. Just lets him take. Okay, I don't know how I feel about all this. Okay, takes, and John Boyer has the bishop's pair, and he also gets this nice e5 move. Yeah, something has gone wrong here. Something has gone wrong here for white. It's a London, not quite. It's a Slav. It's a Slav. It's not a London when white puts the pawn on c4. Yeah, it's an exchange Slav, but yeah, bishop g5, very, very strange. In fact, after knight e4, like, you sort of feel like you have to take this guy. You sort of feel like you have to do it, but after pawn takes, maybe there's just no good square for the knight. If you go back to d2, queen takes d4 might be on the cards. So already kind of tough for white. I would already, I think, prefer black here. But we will leave this game for a moment. I want to see the big finish to this game. What happened? It looks like e5 did, in fact, happen. Yes, so we got e5 after rook f4, though. And then there's a check. And white picks up this pawn, but loses the g pawn. Now, both sides with the passed pawn. But of course, this should favor black due to having the rook. If I'm black here, I'm just going to play king to e6, attacking this pawn on e5. And after king to d4, I was sort of wondering if I could even just take on e4. What MC is doing here is also just very good. Now you can play king to e6, and there's no way even to defend this pawn. So even simpler. Even simpler here. The only danger, of course, is the danger that is ever present, and that is the clock. Just a minute 37 for MC. We'll see if he has the speed chess skills to pull this one off. Okay, now we just need to push this guy. The nice thing about playing against a bishop when you're low on time is that if you put all your pieces on the other color square, then it can't really hurt you. You know, you can play very quickly if you have all your pieces on the dark squares against a light squared bishop. That being said, though, he needs to make some progress here. He can't dilly-dally for too long, or else the clock will start to be a problem. Yeah, I'm a little bit confused by his choice of placing this rook here on h4, but looks like he's getting away with it. Looks like nothing is going too wrong. He can come down to h2 now, swing over, collect some of these pawns, and just make it easy. Just make it easy. Yeah, if you're black here and you're sitting here with a minute on your clock trying to calculate to checkmate, don't do that. Just go rook b2, take the b pawn. You know, just take some of these pawns off the board. Just make your life easy. No need to play perfect chess. You just need to play winning chess. Okay, he takes my advice, goes rook b2. Takes on b6. Okay. Bishop e6 is kind of weird. I would have taken the pawn, but king to e3 is fine as well. Okay, now he takes. Guess we're coming back to f4. We could also go to d4, I suppose, but yeah, no rush here. No rush here for black. Just play simple moves quickly, and you will find your way. Rook to b4 now makes things very easy. Okay, rook to b2 check isn't going to spoil anything either. Oh, that's checkmate in 1. That is checkmate in 1. Checkmate in 1. Checkmate in 1. Checkmate. 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 Yay! All right, he got him. He got him. Big upset for MC. Congratulations to Bayer getting it done on board 1 when they really needed to. All right, let's check back in on this weird-looking Slav game. How on earth did this happen? Okay, we got f4, knight to c6, queen to a4, bishop d7. Yeah, somehow White's opening is looking like it's getting justified here. Yeah, allowing this 95 f4 business feels like maybe it shouldn't have happened. I had a dumb idea here of playing some move like this, but maybe it's no good. Maybe there is just queen to a4, and this knight is going to be able to trade itself off. Of course, my threat with h5. Okay, maybe it's not a threat. I wanted to trap this knight somehow. Some f6 move at some moment, maybe even here, and then I don't be greedy and try to win the knight, but I just try to harass it a little bit. Go f6 h5, put this knight back on a dumb square like f2. Something like that might have made sense. You could also maybe take on f3. Just keep things simple. Give White this sort of soft-looking pawn structure. But after knight c6, bishop d7, now all of a sudden it's getting tough. It's getting very, very tough for Black to hold this together. Yeah, and that's why you see John finally spending some time here. Justini also tanking in the opening. It's move 13, and he's used almost half his time. But looks like he's getting it done. Okay, he just chops on the e5 square. Now, how to take back? This one is not so simple. I think I want to take with the d pawn, and the reason why is I want to be able to put my rook on d1, targeting this backwards d pawn. The danger, though, is that we are missing our dark squared bishop, and Black is going to be able to come out with c5, bishop c5, and sort of strike right at the heart of our weakness here on e3, the heart of our pawn structure. So rook d1 is played, but again, this bishop c5 move is what you have to look out for. Okay, queen to a5 is sort of a weird way to hold the balance. King f2 is a desirable move for White, so I'm not sure why John is trying to induce it. Maybe he wants to play rook to d8 just to play some defense here. Again, I think the active counterplay with bishop to c5 was where it was at. Although maybe knight takes d5 was a reasonable response. Maybe bishop d5, or sorry, maybe knight d5 was a good response. Knight e2, knight d4 looks desirable. Yeah, this is also on the cards for White. This is really, Black's main source of play here. You just have to make sure this bishop c5 and this diagonal isn't going to kill you. And if it doesn't, I think you're in good shape. See, I'm with you, Webster. We got to go king f2. White does find it. And yeah, now we have our threats here. We have our repositioning idea here. This bishop looks a little silly. And the center's closed enough that I don't think the bishops are going to hurt too bad. At least not for now. Black, of course, does have some ideas, though. You can go f6. You can chop off this e5 pawn. Try to get your bishop to a little bit of a better diagonal. But this light squared bishop is going to remain a problem for some time here. It's going to remain a problem. Yeah, that being said, though, I do like ideas like f6. Rook d8 makes sense to start with. We did have a problem here on d5. But now if I'm Black, I kind of want to castle. I kind of want to play f6. And I want to go use this f-file, try to get at this white king, see if I can shake something loose. White king f2. So our idea with White here was to pressure this weak pawn on the open d file. So Justini went rook d1. So we're threatening to play knight takes d5. Black's response to this was to go queen a5, which pins our knights. And a very convenient move for White here is king f2, because it unpins the knight, steps out of this pin, and it also defends our weakness. Our other concern was that Black might go after this e3 pawn. So king f2 solves this problem, anticipates the attack on e3, helps you defend this guy. And in the long run, you're going to be able to develop your bishop and immediately connect your rooks. So it's just a good multi-purpose move, covers e3, unpins the knight, helps develop towards connecting the rooks, and that's why it's a good one. Okay, white chose to bring out this bishop to h3. I'm not sure what we're doing on this diagonal. I guess he wanted this e2 square for the knight, which makes some sense. So I'm expecting knight e2 here. You have to be very, very cautious. Otherwise, black might play d4. And once d4 happens, if diagonals start to open up, you're going to regret this bishop pair. You're going to regret that. So I think knight e2 is a must. Don't think you can get away with not knight e2. Maybe he's trying to calculate this, but of course there's bishop takes e3 tactics, so knight d5, we'll just take, bishop e3, win the queen. That's the end of the calculation. Okay, knight e2 played. Knight e2 played. Wait a second though, did I blunder? I might have blundered. It looks like I blundered. Don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. Yeah, that's unfortunate for white here. That's unfortunate. Always have to look out for the simple tactics. Yeah, bishop a4, of course, John finds it. And yeah, you know, we went back and forth a few times. I think white just played a few weird moves here. I liked this position. You can't play knight e2 right away because of the same tactic, but what? But yeah, I don't know. This g3 bishop h3 like maneuver just didn't seem like the right way to get developed. It's a bit too slow. It's a bit too nonchalant for what the position was calling for there. Yeah, so now bishop a4 and white will lose some material. Unfortunate. Maybe you could at least try taking on b7, get like a pawn for the exchange. I understand it looks a little bit risky, you know, opening up this file when our king is so exposed, but I think you needed to at least get something for it, you know? Always better to have, you know, something for it rather than nothing. And you can quote me on that. That's chess wisdom right there. It's better to have something than nothing. Truer than most other chess principles you're going to hear. Yeah, bishop b4. This is just another reason why queen c3 doesn't look quite right. You can play queen to d4, but our queen actually doesn't really want to be here. That's the square our knight wants to be on. The only other option is queen to c1, which obviously is also not entirely ideal. Yeah, Webster also missed this one. Easy one to miss, I guess. You're not expecting black to have a random tactic in this position, for sure. All right, queen d4 is played, but again, the queen isn't actually that comfortable in this square, in my opinion. All right, let's check out this other game going on then. Let's see what we got here. How did we get here? We had a Sicilian. A queen takes Sicilian. Wow. Okay, I, again, am out of my depth on this one. These rare e4 lines. Okay, wow, knight e5, knight takes d3. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that one by black. I would rather keep this knight here for a little bit. This bishop is not exactly comfortable on d3, and it has nowhere to go. So that's another chess principle. Don't take things that can't run away. That's actually a real one for you this time. So I would have left the knight on e5 for a little bit longer, done something useful, maybe a6, maybe rook c8, just something useful instead before revealing my intentions. And then we got this knight d7 maneuver. Okay, white gets this nice knight on d5, but it looks like b2 was hung. Yeah, b2 is just hung. Okay, so it's not the end of the world for white yet. Not down an exchange or anything, just down a pawn. But black's pieces have all sort of invaded here. So tough position for sure for MC. Tough position for sure. Okay, rook back to b1. I mean, he's still fighting. He is just down one pawn, but you can see the activity. This knight is on a great square on c5. You can also see how this bishop sort of dominates white's center, right? It's tough to make any progress to push the center when this bishop controls those dark squares so well. That being said, we still have the shining jewel of our position here with this knight on d5. This knight on d5 is such a shining jewel that it might as well be attending St. Louis University. Bit of a deep cut joke for you guys there. Random tactics when you're playing all the right ideas are unfortunate to miss because you feel like you should be rewarded, not punished. Yeah, I mean, that's chess. Chess is definitely a game of specifics. Just because you know the general idea doesn't mean it's the right idea in that specific position. Gotta be on the lookout. Don't take things that can't run away. Yeah, I didn't come up with that one. That one is something that you know, normal people actually say as well. But it's useful. It's useful. If it can't run away, then you might as well do something else useful. Leave that bishop sort of in the way of your opponent before you clarify the position. It's the same idea behind keeping the tension. You know, if you leave things in the air, then your opponent has more things to deal with. Okay, this just looks very good for black, though. I'm going to switch back over to the main event here. Of course, we saw white blunder this rook on d1, just the same as we all did here on the stream. And then we got this little maneuver. Black does still have this dark squared pressure. And then bam, a sacrifice. Wow. Okay, so a counter sacrifice. I might have gone for the e4 pawn instead, allowed e3 check, when maybe I can just play queen back to this square. I don't know how the tactics work out, though. Looks like we're just trading into an exchange down endgame now. White is going to be able to pick up this pawn on e4 in the long run. But black can actually make that difficult as well. And while you're picking up that pawn, you know, look out for your other pawns that are going to start to drop. That's not where the bad news ends, though. 15 seconds for Giustini to John's 3 minutes. Not going to be good enough. Not going to be good enough at all here. This will be disaster for Giustini. So John Boyer gets a quick 2-0 on board 1 for the Enterprise versus Edward Jones matchup. So let's, you know, hopefully I didn't just jinx him, but I'm pretty sure he's going to win that game. So let's stick with this other game then, because there is still some intrigue here. Still just one pawn down for whites. The a pawn seems to be the next target, though, along with this bishop on d2. White can sort of keep things murky by playing something like bishop to g5. I'm more familiar with this pawn structure from things like the Benko Gambit, but bishop g5 is often just sort of awkward for black to deal with here. This e7 pawn is definitely a sore spot for black, and there's not a super comfortable way to defend it. You don't want to go f6, stunting your bishop. You don't want to go e6, weakening the dark squares. Usually something like king f8 is the best you can do. While I was talking, though, white played queen e3, which of course blunders the bishop. So the bishop was captured, and everything I was just talking about no longer matters. No longer matters. When I lose my queen, I start singing Ain't No Sunshine When She's Gone. Yeah, you know, I can't say I've ever done that, but it's not the worst idea, singing at the chessboard. Not the worst idea. So John does go on to win that game. Just by resignation, it looks like the bishop got blundered. Yeah, bishop c8, not so good. 3 seconds on the clock as well. Never really stood a chance. And that leaves us with just this game to follow for now. Was this, okay. Rook c1, knight takes a5. Okay, you saw it here. You saw it here. Okay. I can't make too much fun. This is a sort of blindness that happens sometimes in chess. I think everybody's sort of guilty of this. You know, you don't often see somebody just blunder a full rook like this. And so whenever it happens and you already like made another threat, you're just happy that they didn't defend against your threat. You don't even really look at what move they played, and you just take the pawn. So I think that's what happened here. Not going to change the outcome of the game. Not going to change the outcome of the game. Probably. Probably. Okay, knight c5. Black gives up a pawn in order to trade off the knights. Not really a bad idea in this position, especially because you get rook to b8, and now it's going to be smooth sailing. This pawn just goes. Pawn goes. Passive pawn gets pushed. Looks like we're getting some results coming in. So we followed board 1 of that Enterprise matchup, and Kamikaze Knight, we saw him go 2-0 against Giustini Linguini. On the other boards, it looks like Kendulum for Enterprise won 1.5 to half a point against Fishers of Ben for Edward Jones. And on board 3, Big Daddy Jazz, 64, split his match against Paul Frauen. So Enterprise does win that head-to-head matchup, so they will be getting that 20-point bonus towards the Grand Prix. And in this Ascension versus Bayer match, It's not looking good for Bayer. MC needed to win this game to tie the match, and now actually we just see that he has officially resigned the match instead. So with that loss, Ascension does defeat Bayer as well. Bayer only getting 2 points on the 3 boards. So what happened there, the head-to-head matchups were KYQZ goes 1-1 against MC Nick JM with that big upset in the first game that they played. And then board 2 is where Ascension wins the match. Maurice GP gets 2-0 against Vindy. And on board 3, S. Gilmore split his match against NMC Jin, who is not MC Nick JM. Very different people. So Maurice taking home that match victory for Ascension. Okay, so with that, I think we are just about ready to move on to round 2. Maybe we'll have more games to follow. Although I sort of like the chill, you know, we only follow a couple games sort of way to play here. We get to follow some board 1 games. We get to see the best of the best. And sometimes it works out. So I don't think round 2 has started yet, so we are waiting for just a moment. Let's go ahead and see what matchups we have. What's my rating? I am around 2200 something USCF, 2270 something I think, and I'm trying to get 2200 FIDE. I'm battling. I'll be battling tomorrow in St. Louis. We've got an exciting tournament coming up in person. It's going to be FIDE rated, and we'll see what happens. The Bill Wright St. Louis Open, of course. If you're in the area, check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun. Anyways, board 2 of the Corporate Chess League. We have Enterprise up against Bayer, and we have Edward Jones up against Ascension. So we're going to see Justine Linguini take on KYQZ, and we're going to see John Boyer take on MC Nick JM. We'll see if MC can continue with the massive upsets. It's going to be tough against John. It's going to be tough for sure. And Justini definitely looking for redemption for Edward Jones. He's got to battle KYQZ. Also, where is Alex Kerford? Where is Alex? Alex always plays. I think he's missed the last 2 events for Edward Jones. The team needs him. The team needs you, Alex. Come back. Come back. All right, I'm going to refresh one more time. We'll see what we got going on here. Uh-oh, that doesn't look right. Okay. I think a lot of these people clicked out of chess.com. Hopefully they find their way back in. Lots of unable to follows here. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to unfollow everybody to start with. Stop being a creep, you know, not going to follow anybody. And then we're going to do this magic URL thing again. Okay, I'm at least following these people. Indiana Jones 2020 is our house player here tonight. Shout out to Adi. Thank you for filling in here, playing some of the extra games for when we have an odd number of players. But yeah, we're at least following Kamikaze Knight and Justine Linguini, so we will be able to see those top games again. Round 2 starts at 7. Wow, okay, strict schedule for the tournament here tonight. So we've got some time. What do you guys want to talk about? What do you guys want to talk about? I know what to talk about. Do you live in the St. Louis area? Do you want to get involved with the Corporate Chess League? Well, I'll tell you what to do. Number 1, you can go to our website and go under, I think it's, oh boy, I think it's like join or something, join and give. I think under join and give, we have the Corporate Chess League. It's somewhere on our website, check it out. Or you can email us at development@stlouischessclub.org. Below me, I love doing this. I never get to do this. I get to point at graphics. It's amazing. Development@stlouischessclub.org. Send us an email, get involved. We'd love to have you join. These events are a lot of fun. We've been doing them virtually lately because of COVID and because of other things going on at the chess club. But when we do them in person, they're a lot of fun. You get to come out, you get to socialize a little bit, do some networking if you're all businessy, and play some chess, have a good night. So get involved. You don't have to be good either. Trust me. Trust me, you don't have to be good. You just have to enjoy chess and want to play some chess and then come play chess. That's all you have to do. That's really all that's involved. Well, since we've got time, maybe I'll play a chess game. You guys want to play a chess game? It's been a while. It's been a while. We've got some time to fill. Let's try it out. Let's play a 3-minute game. I love chess. So I'm on my personal account here. You'll have to forgive me. I am the Llama Lord, and we'll see what's going on. We'll get a d4, a little d4 action. Maybe play an f3 Nimzo. Do I ever go to the art museum? I've been to the art museum, not recently though. What companies compete in this? I'm so glad you asked. Tonight we have Enterprise, Bayer, Edward Jones, and Ascension playing, and we are missing Darty. Darty is normally also in these events, but I think they couldn't compete tonight, so hopefully they get to come back for the next event. So cool. My username or the Corporate Chess League, or both? Okay, so I wasn't paying much attention. My opponent played bishop f5, and I just played bishop to d3, which is sort of a very friendly thing to do with white. Very friendly, just letting black trade off my best minor piece, but I just wanted to keep things simple in this blitz game. Yeah, you can go queen f3 here, and the point is that black has to deal with the doubling of these f-pawns, which is probably what I would do in a serious game, but instead, we're just going to keep it simple here. I am actually going to take this. No, I'm not. I'm going to go knight g3. I'm going to keep some pieces on. I got an IQP here, and I want to maybe target this f5 square and highlight that this bishop is not so comfortable. Not so comfortable. Just because the light squared bishops are off the board doesn't mean that the light squares aren't important. All right, I will come on this open e-file now. The idea of a corporate league, yeah, it's a lot of fun. We have Alex Crawford to thank for it. Alex, of course, the league commissioner, is the one who really put in the work to recruit some teams and get everything together. Where's Anna Sharovich? I mean, she's around. I think she just is focusing. I think she has like a job. I think she has like a career. So I think she's probably been doing that, if I had to guess. Do you think that anyone can get to 2000 if they train enough and learn theory? I think almost anyone. I mean, if you get like in a horrific car accident and like, you know, are missing, you know, half your brain, maybe not, but I feel like most people could get there. The trouble is, you know, that those keywords, if they train enough, because that's the issue that most adults run into. Turns out a lot of people have like jobs or something that takes up all their time. And when you get involved with these things, jobs, they take up a lot of time. And it turns out you don't have much time to focus on just sitting around playing chess and studying chess. So yes, and also no. All right, I'll go b4 here. My opponent wants to play knight f4, so I'm going to drop my bishop back. Keep an eye on that square. I'm sort of eyeing this d6 square as well. Just keeping an eye on things. a5 is a good move by my opponent, though. Definitely a good idea. Maybe I want to go knight e5. I sort of want to play b5. I think actually, though, instead of all those things, I do have to capture here. All right, I'm going to fake him out now. I was only pretending to want the e-file. What I really wanted to do was attack your b-pawn. It was all a joke. Okay, rook a7. I'll go rook b3. I don't think I'm blundering the fork. You can play c5, but then this knight gets a little bit destabilized, so I don't know if you really want to. I also am hoping I'm not blundering back rank mate, but I don't think I am either. It's probably worthwhile for me to play something like h3 here. Just get that together. Oh, we had a little American Cup flash on the screen there. That was exciting. Okay, rook e6 very, very quickly. I guess the time is dwindling here. I guess he was anticipating that rook c1 move. Okay, I'm gonna come in here. I'm gonna play knight e5. I'm gonna take with the bishop, threaten something like queen g3 maybe. Maybe I'll play queen f3. I don't know. Russians, remember Anna, okay? All right, bishop e5. Okay, he finally cracks. He finally plays g6, which does weaken some squares. So I am going to play queen to g3, sort of keep the tension here, and see if I can't make something happen. Maybe h4, h5 is a way to go. Okay, queen to d2, he's trying to invade. I'm going to play h4. Don't think my opponent made a threat. We'll just keep it rolling here, keep some moves flowing. Okay. All right, maybe it is time to drop back with the knight. Maybe it's time. I mean, what else am I going to do? What else am I going to do? I'll come back. And I will actually start playing a bit faster. I think it's needed here. Okay, b4 finally got played. Scary stuff. Okay, I'm going to attack the queen. I'm going to just let my opponent queen the pawn for some reason. Probably not the best idea. Yeah, probably not the best idea. Okay. We'll do this, and let my opponent have an extra queen. Makes sense, right? Ah, I lost on time. I'm the worst. All right, well, with that, it's 6:59. At least we filled the time. Tough to play fast on the setup we've got here. I'm some distance away from the monitor, some distance away, but that's okay. All right, with that, I think we are just about ready for round 2. Oh, and that's my name. Yeah, Caleb Denby. Welcome. If you're just joining, you missed the first round of the Corporate Chess League, but you are just in time for round number 2. What are we competing for? We're competing for Grand Prix points here tonight. The teams competing are hoping to make the playoffs, and the battle is for Bayer right now. They are hoping to score some Grand Prix points and pass Darty to make their way into the top 4 so they can get into the playoffs and have some fun. And with that, I think I have filled enough time as our first game has started. Let us check it out. We've got Justini Linguini once again battling KYQZ. So this, of course, is the Edward Jones versus Ascension matchup. And again, Ascension's sort of the dark horse of this tournament so far. Enterprise and Edward Jones have been dominant in years past, but Ascension in a very close 3rd place, taking some points off of these monster teams. So far, no moves though. No moves being played. So there's your standings for tonight. Enterprise and Ascension picking up the first 2 match wins. And surprisingly, Darty also got points. Okay, so I think what happened there is they have one player competing here tonight by the name of I Love Legos 2. One player, not enough to constitute a team, but he's still allowed to play in the extra matches, and the points that he scores still goes towards the team total. So actually, Bayer has made up no ground so far. They need to win a match to really leapfrog in the standings here. So what do we have? It looks like we have an advance French with this knight a3 move. Okay, again, the player's testing theory that I know very, very little about. What's knight a3? What's going on here? What is knight takes d4? What's going on here? This is hanging. Do you take this? I feel like you take this. This feels like not the best of the ways to sacrifice your e5 pawn like this. This feels like not the best way to sacrifice your e5 pawn, if you ask me. I can think of 1 or 2 other ways I would have done it. You know, you see these lines with bishop d3 sacrificing a pawn. You see lines where, you know, things get opened up a little bit earlier that you can play. But yeah, knight a3 with the idea of sacrificing this pawn. I don't know. Okay, you get bishop b5 check. KYQZ playing very quickly as if this was the point. But now after this trade of bishops, I think black is doing very well. Black's up a pawn in the center. Black has very easy development, very natural development. Bishop d6, knight f6, castle. What's the story? What's the story here? What is the story? I'm not sure I know the story. Okay, a6. I don't know how I feel about that one. I don't know how I feel about a6. I guess they were worried about knight b5 if they tried to go bishop d6. But what is there to be worried about? You know, you've taken your pawn. When you take a pawn in the opening, it always costs you some time, right? You spend time capturing a pawn. And so after you capture that pawn, you have to play very quickly. You have to develop your pieces with a sense of urgency. That way you can consolidate and just be up a clean pawn. Now, black still got there in the end, but you don't really want to be spending time on moves like a6 after you've just snatched a pawn. You want to be spending all your time developing as quickly as you can, making sure you get consolidated, making sure your position is solid. That way, you can enjoy your extra pawn instead of suffering for it. Oh, also, yeah, well, Whipster with a super chat. Shows up kind of weird on the screen that I have here, but thank you very much. Okay, we get rook to c8, bishop takes c5, and I don't see the point. Why didn't black play bishop takes knight a3? Was it hanging at some point, or are you just asking about the, yeah, just the pawn structure? So bishop takes knight here is interesting. There's definitely an argument for doing it because it very much makes white's pawns ugly. The downside is when you play the French, these dark squares become rather loose around your king. You're putting all your pawns on light squares, so you might be a little bit wary of giving up that bishop for that knight, especially when things like bishop f4 can come in and start eyeing up all these loose squares around your king. That being said, I'm sort of with you on this one. It looks like it's probably just a good move in this instance. But, not entirely necessary either. Black still is getting a good position. More than one way to get there. Do the super chats go to Caleb? I can't really tell what you said. We're using some website that combines YouTube and Twitch chats. But here, let me open up our actual stream here. Let's see what I can see. Oh, well, it's just a super chat with no text. Well, in that case, I did see it. All right. Thank you very much. Would have totally taken that in blitz at least? Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's perfectly viable. Actually, why don't we cheat here? I'm curious what the engine thinks, because it is very much a double-edged thing. Let's see if the engine likes it. Yeah, engine is on the same page. Although, I will say, it says this move is like minus 2.2. This move is minus 2.0. So, there you go. Both moves, good, as expected. But you'll notice it's not like, a huge difference. And that's because it is sort of double-edged. You want to be careful about giving away that bishop. Now, I will say trading that bishop for the other bishop, much less risky because, obviously then it's, there's no unopposed bishop to worry about. Like, you can imagine if a bishop was on a3 right now, white might have something to play for. In this case, I think it's just sadness. It's just sadness and an extra pawn for black. That being said, I've seen much better positions go down the drain in the Corporate Chess League and just in chess. So still, not time to give up just yet for KYQZ. While they're figuring that one out, though, let's check in on this other game that we've got going on, which is between Kamikaze Knight and MC. Looks like we have a Scandi here with b4. Wow, again, just lines that I don't know. So I suppose the idea is that if you go capturing this pawn, white wants to go something like rook b1 and target the b7 pawn. So black declines, and the queen continues to get pushed around. And then we end up with this slightly strange structure. Both sides get castled. Knight c4 is white's idea. b6. I don't know how I feel about that, but okay. b6, c5 is the point. And now after c5, white steps past with b5. We get a trade of these knights, and knight c6, and we're back up to present day. Super playable Scandi line. You've seen it. It's been seen at the master level. This b4 idea, interesting. I was not familiar. So what's going on here? I liked what John did by sort of sidestepping that c5 pawn by playing b5. What that is going to do for him is in the long run, if we end up in endgames, white's going to be able to make a passed pawn, and a very far advanced passed pawn over here on the queen's side. And in fact, that's going to be relevant in these middle games as well. Meanwhile, black is not without counterplay. He's targeting this c3 pawn a little bit, trying to make something happen over on this side of the board. But to my eyes, it looks like this a5 and eventually b6 kind of game plan is going to be pretty relevant here. So you see black immediately trying to challenge this idea. I kind of like this. The point is that if you go a5, black is simply going to play queen back to c7. And you're in this awkward spot where you can't really touch your b pawn. You would love to play b6, but of course that leaves this knight behind. So problems to solve here again for John, but so far tonight he's been on his game. He's been able to solve the problems his opponents have been posing. Okay, so he does continue through with a5 now. So what's the idea? Queen to c7, what does he want? Maybe he just wants something like rook to b1. Just keep it simple. If you take my guy, I'll take back with the bishop, defend my knight. Although I have to say I'm not entirely convinced by such things. No, he wants the exchange sack. All right, I love it. Bold chess by John. He gives up the rook in order to maintain this pawn duo over here on the queen side. Oh, do they go to Caleb? No, I don't get the money from the super chats. What it does do is support our scholastics program, I believe. If I can read our little blurb somewhere. Maybe I can't read our blurb. But it goes to our scholastics program. I don't know the blurb off the top of my head because I'm not on the stream so much these days. But it helps chess in schools. This much I know. Okay, so John sacrifices the exchange. What does he get for it? He gets a passed b pawn, which is going to look very scary. It remains to be seen how useful it actually is, though. So someday he's going to play b6. He doesn't have to do it immediately because he would very much appreciate if black would capture here, giving him a passed pawn, two connected passed pawns. Instead, he goes bishop f3, which looks like a very sensible move. You want to push this rook away. Now, black has to decide where it goes. I think b8 makes the most sense. You do have to be a little bit worried about ba6 sometimes here. And that might be what John has in mind. We can play queen to a7, but then you might get stuck with bishop to b7. And I think the best that black can do is start giving back some of that material. Okay, same with bishop to f4. Honestly, if I'm black here, I'm thinking about playing a takes b5, allowing bishop b8, rook b8, c b5, rook b5. The danger, though, is that this bishop is already in prime position to control the queening square. So maybe that in fact, would not be working out, right? White still has this passed a pawn. The queen supports it. Queen, or pawn to a6 immediately, and black might be in a bad way. So rook to d8 instead, and we see now pawn to b6. I think John is still intending to do some very rude things like bishop c7. The simpler way to play, of course, is just b7, b8. These bishops already well placed to just escort that pawn down the board. Okay, rook to d4 though by black. He's fighting back. He's fighting back, not taking it lying down. So it would be great if we could just play b7, b8, but of course rook f4 takes away our defender of the b8 square. And if white takes the time to play bishop g3, I think black will in fact snap off this c4 pawn. After b7, he's just going to go rook over to b4 and try and corral this b pawn before it gets anywhere too scary. Meaning, you know, the next square up the board where it turns into a queen. Seems like black's down a piece with that bishop on g6. So it looks like that for the moment, but this bishop is actually useful. In that line that I just mentioned, if we take and go rook b4, white would love to play rook b1, but simply cannot, thanks to this bishop. So in a sense, it is kind of, you know, biting on nothing. It's just got the open air to target, but sometimes the open air is useful. So bishop e3 by John, and the chat asks, why not queen to c1? And sort of, I'm wondering the same thing. Maybe not c1, but you could go, actually, yeah, I guess you have to go c1 to defend both. Yeah, I mean, that defends both threats. It certainly was worth considering. Instead, bishop e3, and black does just capture this pawn. Maybe John wants to play rook c1 here, and his idea is that he's going to be winning the pawn back on c5. That very much could be the case. Yeah, the bishop on g6 does have some scope. I agree. Like, you know, there are going to be a lot of variations where it turns out to be a useful piece. So this was John's idea. He wants to skewer the rook and the pawn, and again, he's going to get that passed pawn duo. Now that this has been allowed, I have to say I think that this is going to be very, very difficult for black to deal with. I think rook to b4 was definitely the better square. You still lose this pawn on a6, but maybe you can fight back a little bit, right? You get rook to a8 there, the bishop retreats, you have rook takes b6 with the pin on the queen. Could have been interesting. Instead though, rook e4, and now it's just the a pawn for nothing. And yeah, those pawns are going to roll down the board. White is going to be crushing here. Were these corporate league events typically held in person before? Yes, they went virtual once COVID hit, And now we're doing sort of a weird kind of mix. Some weeks they're online, some weeks they're in person. Lately they've been online, but especially for the playoffs, I'm going to be back in person here at the club. Going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. Okay, rook to c1 for white. I mean, yeah, this is fine. Honestly, I would have just played like bishop d3 straight away. Just waste no time. Go pawns go. Let's win the game. Rook c1. Now black sacrifices the exchange back. I am struggling to see how it's going to make a difference here. Black, I think, is sort of going for broke. Wants to play something like f4, try to attack the king in a last-ditch effort to make something happen. But I would be impressed if it worked out. I would be impressed. Be very impressed. Because you do not have a lot of time to work with, right? This takes 2 moves, and it's hard to make any sort of threats in 2 moves. I guess maybe you go bishop e4 next as black. But I mean, if you play b7 right away, like there's just no time. There's just no time. No time to make it work. Okay, this game I'm going to say is in the bag. Let's check in on Giustini Linguini versus KYQZ. So when we last left it here, what did we have? We had this weird pawn sacrifice in the French. I remember all this. We had this trade of bishops, the knight on e4, c4 was played. Okay, this knight got kicked away. We got a trade of pawns here, and black actually won a second pawn. Okay, some more knight maneuvering. Ooh, a self-pin here with queen to c5. Not a fan of that one at all. You don't really want to pin yourself up for no reason. White went for counterplay down the f file. We got some more trades. White actually managed to take one of the pawns back, but black won this a2 pawn. And this also appears to be a pretty hopeless endgame. Pretty hopeless here, in my opinion. Okay, but it's never completely hopeless. Takes. We have a mate in 1 threat. Maybe he'll miss it. Maybe he'll miss it. Also not hopeless is the clock situation. Giustini needs to pick up the pace a little bit. You just want to keep things simple here and play with enough pace that you have enough time to deliver checkmate. Okay, rook e1 hits this knight. That's actually not a threat though. Of course, rook takes knight would blunder checkmate. Okay, black goes for the g2 pawn. Also reasonable. And again, the plan is pretty simple here. You want to go b3, b2, b1, and what you don't want to do is blunder checkmate in 1. So one trick to avoid, Giustini avoids it. Okay, well done. Okay, now maybe one more threat that you have to deal with. Rook f8, rook f7, and what do you actually play? What do you actually play? I guess you go king g6, rook g7, king f6, and I guess that's the way. Yeah, and Giustini plays it immediately, to his credit. Plays it immediately. Well done. Well done to escape that trick. Okay, rook back to f3. No trades allowed. Yeah, now you want to save this knight. And that's why I didn't like this knight takes g2 move. Again, when you have like such a crushing material advantage on the queen side, whenever you have spare time, you just want to spend all your time focusing on getting those guys down the board. You don't want to get bogged down, putting your knight on an awkward square, giving your opponent tactics that you have to deal with. Just to win a g2 pawn, right? The g2 pawn doesn't matter if our b pawn becomes a queen. So I would have liked to just see the simple b3, but instead we've got this, and black now is threatening rook a1 to trade the rooks, and that should be the end of the game. Yeah, rook a1 gets those rooks off the board. The knight's not going to be able to stop the onslaught on the queen side, especially with black's king coming in. So this should be winning for Giustini. Okay, we did have a result in this game as well. John Boyer did go on to win that position as expected, without any problems, I think. Okay, we'll assume Giustini is going to win this one, even though he's a little bit low on the clock. I find it hard to believe he won't. So let's stick over here. And again, with the weird openings, we have an Alakin, in Alakin's defense. All right, let's see what's going on. Okay, e5, knight d5, d6, knight f3, and d4, all on the board. So this is going to be one of the tamer lines in the Alakin. No 4 pawns attack or any other garbage here. Black just gets the simple play with taking on e5, de5. Okay, he continues now with e6. And the Alakin is one of those openings where, yes, you end up with less space, but in lines like this, at the very least, you get all your pieces developed, right? The danger is when you have less space than your opponents, you're not going to end up with enough squares to develop your pieces. Whereas in a line like this, at the very least, your pieces are getting off the back rank, which is nice. DE5 not recommended. Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, that does look odd. Don't they normally attack this pawn again somehow? Or okay, maybe you start with bishop g4, but you're normally doing something, right? You're attacking this guy more instead of resolving the tension. And Nick would know all about resolving tension from I think a book he was reading. Or was that Nick? I think that was Nick reading a book about keeping the tension. Okay, it looks like Justini did win that game as well, as expected. Okay, and the problem is being explained. Apparently, knight e5 is very strong here with bishop c4 coming in with bishop f7 ideas. Fair enough. And now that you mentioned that, I think there's some sort of classic 80 moves of theory long knight sacrifice in these kinds of lines, right? Am I remembering correctly? You go like knight e5, knight f7, queen h5, king e6, that kind of garbage. That's the fun stuff. That's the Corporate Chess League game I want to see. Sounds like a useful book. Well, boy, oh boy, if I remembered the title, I would tell you. Maybe Nick can share. Instead, we get some more normal looking position. And after b3, is this a pawn? This looks like a pawn. I can take, and then after you take, I can take again, and then I have more pawns than you. Seems good. Seems worth doing, in my opinion. It was a local print in St. Louis in the 90s. Wow, Nick with the deep cuts. Okay. Good luck finding that one then. Good luck to you. Okay, knight f4. So just positional chess here from John. Just goes knight f4. He's got some light squared pressure. His pieces, again, they all have squares. At the very least, his pieces have squares. What more can you ask for? Bishop b5 steps out of the threat of knight takes e2. And it's about time that black castles the king, I think. We've delayed it for long enough here. It's about time to get this king castled. John might be considering queen takes d1, which at first glance looks like it might win. Yeah, maybe queen takes d1, which is very good. You remove the last defender of the knight, and then you get stuff like knight h3 or bishop h3 followed, or bishop f3 followed by knight h3, and it seems like that should be quite good. Yeah, queen d1 played. Queen d1 played. Nice find by John. Okay, bishop c6, I guess we just go b takes c6 now. Well, I mean, what else would we do? And now, yeah, we have our choice. We have our pick. Do we want to play knight h3 and leave the bishop on, or just take on f3 first? So, okay. John picks knight takes h3. I like it. Webster says, I like books about principles. Openings are best learned on apps like Chessable, in my honest opinion. Yeah, the secret is that the things on Chessable are essentially books, though. It is nice to have that extra tool of the move trainer and things like that, but at the end of the day, the usefulness is not in the moves, in my opinion. It's in the ideas being shared in the text, more so than the moves a lot. You get to understand, why these lines are the correct idea, what the correct idea is once you're out of the theory, what is the plan in that kind of position, what am I actually trying to achieve here, and that's what's getting shared through the text of the books. So rook d3, and I mean, this just looks winning for John. He's only up a pawn in this case, but I mean, the bishops are going to be very nice here, and this, yeah, we can castle our king any day now. Weakness here for white, weakness here for white, weakness here for white, weakness here for white. Going to be tough to keep everything together. So let's check in on our other board one and see how we're doing in this game. Wow, craziness already. Looks like we had a King's Indian defense. Okay, a quick bishop g4. And, one of these lines. Okay, and white just blunders the c4 pawn. So don't be shy about just retreating this bishop back in a position like this. because you're going to gain that tempo back against that knight on e5. f4 is going to come with tempo at some critical moment, and I think in lines like this, white's actually pretty close to just like straight up winning. So would have been nicer to see that. Okay, I'm glitching out a little bit, I think. Okay, we're back in control. My arrow key stopped working, but that's okay. Instead, black did get to pick up that c4 pawn and had some nice counterplay, although already I'm starting to favor white again. And nope, never mind. We lost e4. No longer favoring white here. We have this nice looking bishop on c6 and some queenside pressure, but yeah, black should be in control at the end of the day. Okay, we got b4 on the board. So what's it all about? Is black actually in control? I think so. Knight e6, knight d4. Hard to argue with black's total control over the center here. How can you work on chess yourself? It depends on what level you are and what your weak points are. But there's a lot you can do. You can play chess. You can analyze your chess games. You can do tactics. You can read books. My advice is always do what you find is the most interesting. Because when people try to buckle down and say, I'm going to study the parts of chess that I hate because I need to get better, sometimes it works. Sometimes they study them and get better. But a lot of times they quit because they don't like it. And if you quit, you don't get any better. So that's always priority number one. So queen to c4 makes a lot of sense here for white. You want to pin this knight. You don't want to let it get to that d4 square. And maybe I didn't give this idea enough credit. We can follow up with bishop d5. We're going to have to play rook to e8, otherwise our knight dies. Okay, black chooses the other rook. But I think black will have just enough time to escape here. Although, actually, yeah, rook f to e8 may be no good, because now we can actually take here. If we use the other rook, we would maintain this pin on the rook for another turn, which I think was very important. That was going to give us the time we needed to unpin our king. Now after fe5, might be big trouble for black. Okay, there's bishop b2, but then there's check, king h1. And what's going on? What is going on? I don't know, but it looks very scary all of a sudden. Very scary. The self-pin, again, maybe not so good. Okay, black does play the check. Any recommendations for learning openings? Well, what we were just talking about. Chessable, I think, is a great tool for players these days. And opening books in general, if you like reading, I think can be quite helpful. Okay, rook takes b2. Black goes king g7, unpinning, but I think it's a turn too late. We're going to go rook e2. That is a skewer. Boom, boom, boom. And what to do? What can you do? Nothing. You can do nothing. Okay, maybe you actually play queen takes e2 here. This is kind of funny. I think queen e2 is the best move, and after queen takes e2, you go knight f4, and then after the queen moves away, you get to... Actually, no. You get checked, so you don't get to pick up this bishop. So no good after all. No good after all. So queen here instead tries to make it interesting, but I think the simple way is correct here. We just go rook e6, capture that knight. White's going to be up a piece. Looks good for Justini. Back from the brink, had an awkward opening, but managed to find the way through. Any book recommendations? I mean, it depends on what opening you want to learn. You got to find an opening you like, and then and then maybe I can help. Me personally, I used a book on the Nimzo-Indian. I used the Nimzo-Indian move by move to get started with that opening. Also here, we just came in on an awkward tactic. Looks like white here is also losing a piece. All right, let's go back to this one. Nah, maybe this one isn't where it's at after all. Black at least has a pawn for the piece in this position. In this position, I think John has the extra pawns and now the extra piece, and now MC throws in the towel, decides to go ahead and resign. So a perfect night for John Boyer of Enterprise, going 2-0 for his team, and that's going to leave us just with the other board one here to follow. Let's see what's going on. Rook to e8. We'll see if KYQZ can bring it back from the brink. Bring it back from the brink. Wow. Bet you didn't know I could rap on the Corporate Chess League. So KYQZ having a tough night so far. Started off 0-1, against MC in a big upset. He did manage to battle back in round 1 to split that match, but maybe, it's not going to be so easy to repeat that same kind of comeback against Giustini Linguini. KG asks, are these employees of the companies competing? Yes. So we are currently looking at the Edward Jones versus Ascension match with Giustini Linguini heading the team for Edward Jones and KYQZ heading the team for Ascension. So KYQZ is making it interesting, at least here. He's got this pressure down the E file. White has to spend a couple turns untangling. I don't love what he's going for here with D5, D4, though, to be honest with you. I would have preferred to see something like Rook A4, and then maybe we can bounce back a little bit, start pressuring actively over here on the queen side. D4 is actually serving to hamper Black's rook more than it helps, right? Your rook cannot swing over to this side of the board anymore to make threats. Now after Rook E5, I think it's going to be simple. We just go Rook to C1. No more activity for Black. It's time to defend passively, and once you go passive in these positions, it's going to be tough. Very American chess match. Well, all the teams are located in St. Louis, so that makes some sense. Okay, king to F6. Now, if I'm playing with white here, I want to keep my pieces active, find some way to come after this D pawn. So Rook to C4 looks like a good start, but Black can actually bring in the king now. And yeah, maybe it's not so easy after all. We get Bishop F3, we get to kind of cut this king off a little bit, but I don't know how White's intending to deal with something like Rook D7 and pushing this guy forward. Maybe we need to bring our own king. Okay, Rook F7 doesn't feel like the right idea. White wants to play king E2, king D3 anyways. Or maybe even king D2, leaving the light squares open for the bishop. It's still up to Giustini to be able to break through here, though. Still up to Giustini. Bishop C6 to paralyze? Yeah, so I like the bishop on F3 better than C6 because I like leaving this file open so we can actually target this guy a little bit. And especially now after H6, I think Black is leaving behind some more problems. Okay, Giustini finds bishop G4 instead when this rook is actually overworked and something will fall. Now I think you got to go Rook F7, allow this takes, and try to invade, get active again. But without the D pawn, I think we're running out of hopes here. We are running out of hopes. Okay, Rook takes D4. Okay, we get Rook F2. We get our last hurrah invading on the second rank, but I don't think it should amount to much. Shouldn't amount to much here. Okay, king D6 actually allows this with check. I would have preferred to see king to D5. Looks kind of scary, but against bishop E6, then you just play king D6. If I'm white here, okay, yeah, he just goes bishop F3. I mean, anything is fine. It's all going to be good. Okay, Rook A2 tries to pressure on the other side of the board. And I can give a check, go Rook C4, go Rook C6 even, and should be pretty smooth sailing here for Giustini. Giustini, though, eternally kind of a time pressure addict tonight. He's always leaving himself just enough time to get the job done. So far, it hasn't come back to bite him. Here, in fact, 3 minutes, though, probably going to be enough time, especially now that he finds this king E4 idea. He's actually invading with the king. The bishop and the rook hold absolutely everything down. They control, massive swaths of the board as well. Makes it tough for Black to fight back. King G6, king H6, king G5, and probably resigns, to be honest. Probably resigns after that happens. Might be time to throw in the towel. H5, not going to be quite good enough. Maybe he was hoping for some H6 pre-move, G4, trying to stay in the fight, but no such luck. These pawns do fall. And KYQZ, desperate now. Desperate for some hope. But there is none. The plan is simple. We go H4, we go H5, we go H6. We do this. We go h7. We do this. We go h8. c5. This is the hope. Black throws away the c pawn. You cannot take because rook's e1 is check, and your rook would hang. So rook over to c1 instead. And now, at the very least, black has a check, which is more than he could have said in the previous position. So if you take here, I think white's actually intending rook e6. Maybe not, but fun way to get the last piece off the board. So this pawn is actually untouchable by both pieces. So rook d4 or rook e6 should be the same thing here. Either way is going to get the job done. Rook e6 is played by Justini. Okay, now there's no more pieces. I think it's time. I think it's time to give it up. Yep, we get resignation. And with that, I think we are out of games to follow. Let me see if I can find any other ones. Don't know that I'm going to be able to, though. The round should be wrapping up here. I doubt we have too many more games going on. Let's see, though. Let's see what we got. Looks like there's a few people still online. I'm not sure if anybody's playing. I think we might have to be calling it a night here. Let's see if I can find some scores for you guys, though, because we don't have the results of the round. What I do have are the results on board 1. So John Boyer wins both games on board 1 for Enterprise, and Justini Linguini wins both games on board 1 for Edward Jones. So if I had to guess, those two teams probably won. But let's see if I can make it official here. While you're looking at me, I will try and look some of these people up. Is that how you do it? That is how you do it. Okay. Kendulum is playing a correspondence game, but not playing in live chess. Okay, so let's take a look here. Kendulum goes 2-0 against Vindy. Okay, so with that, Enterprise does defeat Bayer in their match. Now, hopefully, it's going to be just as easy for Edward Jones here. So I don't have to do this too much. Let's see. Fishers of Men is the board 2 for Edward Jones. Ooh, and he's blitz? No, he's still playing. He must still be playing. Let's see if we can find him. We can find him. It's a miracle. Okay, so he won his first game against Maurice GP, and now this is one of the final games of the round, most likely, up against Maurice GP. So let's see here. So if Fisherman wins this, he officially will have won the match for Edward Jones. And if I can look up Paul Frauen, we might actually already have a result as well. Let's see here. No, so Paul lost his first game against S. Gilmore. Okay, so now it's up to either Paul or Fishers of Men. One of them has to score at least a half point. If they can get a half point out of the remaining 2 games, then Edward Jones will win the match against Ascension. But they have to, they can't lose out, otherwise they will tie the match. So what's going on here? Fishers of Men has the white pieces. He has the extra pawn. He has a weird looking structure over here on the queen side. And definitely the worst minor piece here. The knight not leaving a beautiful impression on the position. So black has the extra pawn, or sorry, black has the dark squared bishop. That is going to be a good source of play in the position. What white needs to do is find some way to launch this guy up the board. If this guy gets a few squares further up the board, bishop's not going to matter. The only thing that's going to matter is this h-pawn. Okay, I like knight g2. I don't like the trade of rooks by black. You needed to keep pieces on the board, keep things complicated. But what is this? Rook f4. Oh, I didn't look at the time. I didn't look at the time. Fishers of Men has no time. And black picks up the 2 queenside pawns. Now the h-pawn is rolling. We can just barely stick our bishop on h8 in time to stop it. Okay, Maurice wants to put the rook there instead. Fair enough. Now can white make it happen with 8 seconds on the clock? I have my doubts. I have my doubts. Okay, there's a check. We need to bring our king over. We need the king here. We need the king to help. Okay, he's trying to keep the knight out of g5, but now there's knight g6. Knight g6 is missed. Oh, knight g6 would have kept the game alive. Bishop f6, we can take the rook, be up in exchange. Instead, 2.8 seconds on the clock. I don't think Fishers of Men is going to get to do it. I don't think he's going to get it done. And yeah, black wins on time. Okay. So with that, it was all up to Paul Frauen. Oh, but he has officially won his game. So Edward Jones, just barely by a single point, manages to defeat Ascension with Paul Frauen on the last board, getting the job done. And with that, I believe we have all of our results in for tonight's. So exciting action there at the end. A very close match between Edward Jones and Ascension. You know, that Ascension team, they're tough. They're always in the mix. They're always one you have to look out for. It always seems to come down to the last game to determine if you're good enough to beat that Ascension team. So with that, you see the standings up there on the screen. That is how many points the teams have won here tonight. So these will be added to their existing scores. Ascension makes up just a tiny bit of ground against Edward Jones, trying to overtake them in that second place spot. Darty, despite not fielding a full team, scores more points than Bayer, so they will maintain their fourth place spot and their spot in the playoffs for yet another week. And Enterprise further extends their lead thanks to their board one, John Boyer, going 4-0. Enterprise actually with a clean sweep of Bayer in that last round. Makes it tough to catch up. So with that, I think that is just about all we have for you here tonight. Be sure to tune in, not next week, but the week after for the next edition of the Corporate Chess League. Again, if you want to get involved yourselves, email us at development@stlouischessclub.org. We would love to have some more teams in the events. It's always a lot of fun when we do these. And thank you all very much for watching. As always, my name is Caleb Denby. This has been the Corporate Chess League, and I will see you next time.
The 2022 chess season is off and running. Join us in April for the first American Cup. World-class chess masters will gather in the chess capital of America, St. Louis, Missouri, to compete in a do-or-die struggle for a combined purse of $300,000. We will cover all the action live from April 20th through April 29th. Tune in for the best game in chess streaming live. For more information, visit uschesschamps.com.